Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a woman standing in a field of poppies. It's going to be very simple. I'm going to try to keep it beginner level. I'm going to show you a gridding technique for drawing out this kind of a composition to make it a lot easier for you. And I've got showing you step by step how to do it from start to finish. So I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's going to be man in chat for me during the live show. And if you've got questions, you can post those in all caps and we'll try to answer them. So let's get started. All right, so here's the grid that I was talking to you about. You can print off any picture. There's a website, Tudor Grid. I'll put the link down in the description. I don't have it in there right now for the live show, but I will put it in afterwards if you want to go find it. So you can put in any photo, and it shows you how to do the grid in any size you want. And so I just went ahead and did it for the woman, just to show you how to make it easier. What you would do is do it in the same dimensions as your whatever canvas you're using. So crop your photo to the dimensions of your canvas. In this case, mine is 9 by 12. And so we've got 12 bars across and 9 down. And that way we can make this any size we want. We can make it on a bigger canvas if we want. Just making sure that our boxes are all the same ratio, I guess, as the original drawing or image that you're wanting to use. Anyhow, I'm not explaining that well, but it's all explained on the website. It's pretty nifty. So anyhow, so I've gridded out my canvas with, I've just used I don't use pencil, just use like a water-soluble watercolor pencil, or this one's a graphite aquarelle, it's hard to say, pencil. There's scriball pencils. There's all kinds of water-soluble pencils out there that you can use for this. You could use a chalk marker too if you wanted to, anything like that that's going to erase and dissolve into your paint is what you want. You don't want these lines to show up because they will kind of bleed through your paint if you use regular graphite pencil. So let's talk about our brushes real quick. This, by the way, is my, before I go too far, this is my Fredrix Belgian linen canvas board in 9 by 12, like I said. Thank you to Fredrix for sponsoring our canvases for this video. I love the linen canvases because they're just very kind of low. They're not super highly textured, so for detail paintings like this, they work really well. And they're archival, so they've got a really hard board. They're not like your regular paper panels. They've got a hardboard interior, so they're not going to warp like your paper ones would. All right, here is the Princeton, number 12 bright, just for some of the background stuff. Number 8 bright for some of the smaller detail background stuff. And then the number 2 bright, possibly, I may not use this. I may use the angle brush instead, but we'll see. Number 1 round and number 2 aught round. And those are all the 6100 series from Princeton. Thank you to them for being our brush sponsor. This is the VelvetTouch line with the 1/4 inch and the 3/8 inch angle. And then you're going to need some sort of scruffy brush for probably a fan brush would probably work the best, I'm guessing. This one is a 10-aught Bristle fan. I've also got the Willow's blender 3/8 inch and the 3/8 inch Deerfoot Stippler. And these two are the Select, and this is the VelvetTouch line. So all of them Princeton brushes. We'll just see as we get going which ones we decide we want to use, but it's helpful to kind of have a variety of different ones to work with. Let's go over our palette. I've got Unbleached Titanium, Titanium White, Cadmium Red Medium, Cadmium Red Light, Yellow Oxide, Cadmium Yellow Medium, Ultramarine Blue, Burnt Sienna, Burnt Umber, and Carbon Black. I may not use the black, but we'll see. We'll just see if we need the hair a little bit darker. I was not quite sure. This picture that we're using is very kind of grayed out, so it's not like, I don't think it's like, it's got some sort of filter in it, so it makes it a little bit more sepia toned. Sepia or sepia? I'm not sure how you say that.
Sippy.
Sippy. So, anyhow, all right. I'm going to set that aside. So pretty much the grid method is pretty self-explanatory, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you how it works. So I've already gridded out my canvases. It's not the same exact size as my print out, but that doesn't matter because all we're going to be looking at is in each individual little square. And then we'll go to the same corresponding square up here and just make sure that we're doing the same little shape. It's like those little puzzles that you did, you know, as a kid. They came in the little Highlander books or whatever. Is that the one, the Highland? Know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay.
If you're talking about books, you're talking to the wrong person.
No, I'm talking about those little kids things. You know, the little kids magazine.
Highlights.
Highlights. Thank you. I knew it was wrong. Highlights. Thank you.
Highlander or something different.
Yeah. So what you do when you're using these little, you just look at each individual squares. That will keep your brain from kind of trying to interpret what it's seeing on its own, because that's where we kind of get messed up with drawing. Is our brain kind of interferes and says, "Oh, that's not what a head looks like. A head is a circle. You know, you're doing a little triangle there. That can't be right." So you may not have the same dialogue as me, but that's what my brain tells me. So anyhow, so what you do is kind of, and you can do this as small as you want to. So if you really don't like to draw at all, you can make, you know, even more little squares in here and just get down to the very fine little lines. But what you can do is kind of look at the center point of your mark or of your little section that you're trying to draw. And then you can see where, okay, the hair is coming just to the outside of that, and right about the halfway mark, just above it, it's going to kind of turn and go straight down. And so that way you kind of know, and then you just match it up with the box that you've already drawn, and you just keep on going from there. Here we've got her shoulder coming down. It's curving. It's going right to the edge of that box and goes all the way down. Comes in a little bit right here between these two, and then goes out again. Kind of skims the outside of this little square right here, and then comes in. And so if you're not, you know, I don't do a lot of figure drawing myself. You know, it's just not something that I do a lot of. I like it, but it's not like I tend to go towards flowers and things like that, you know, obviously. So This was kind of the best of both worlds because it had flowers, but it also, you know, was a figure. So I figured it would be worth a shot.
So people could just paint flowers if they don't want to.
That's right. They could just paint the flowers. They can do the field of flowers. They don't have to put the woman in it if they don't want to.
Put a tank in the background.
Right. If you're Mark, you'd put a tank. So.
Stick man.
Yeah. So anyhow, you can kind of see. I've gone ahead and kind of drawn out her basics there. I guess I'll go over here and kind of do the arm. Just kind of show you how that works. It's sort of like a little rectangle almost right here. It's all we're seeing of her arm, and it doesn't go back past the elbow. She's got it kind of up, raised forward, so we're not saying it's not going to be level with the elbow down here where you would think, you know, this elbow should be even with this one. It's not if it's raised up because she's touching her face or whatever. So, and then this little top part of the skirt just kind of fluffs along kind of at an angle here. This shoulder kind of gets hidden by the hair. It comes down. This hair does a triangle on this side and then goes out almost to the edge here. Kind of is blowing in the wind and comes straight down and sort of does an angle down like that. And then the blouse tucks in right here. It's pretty tight to her waist, is right in here, right about where her elbow is. And then there's a little section of the skirt that comes out this way, and this one goes out just past the elbow. So it comes way out here and then kind of comes down and then gets buried in the field of flowers down here. And then this side, it kind of curves her by her hip and comes down like this. So all of this is going to be covered up by the flowers down here. Okay, so there's your basic, very simple, especially if you use a grid system. I encourage you to do that. It's not cheating. All of the masters, painters, for years and years and years have used all kinds of tools like this to, maybe not digital tools, but they had, little pocket things that line the lines up, little grid systems, all kinds of things. It's a very common practice, been used for years by artists. Don't feel like you're cheating if you use this or a traceable or anything else. Don't let anybody tell you what to do with your art. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot of debate about whether traceables are okay for, people to use, but I feel like once you're if you're doing something like this that requires accuracy, it's definitely worth it to use the tools that are available to you. Don't try to, very, very rarely does somebody have the skill, unless they've done it multiple times and they're very comfortable and they know the dimensions of the human body and they do it all the time. Very rarely will somebody be able to do, there are artists that do that and that's what they specialize in, but I'm saying, just the average artist, you're going to be using tools and things to help you out. Okay, so there's our horizon line, which is, let's see, so if this is halfway, it's about a quarter of the way up the canvas right here. And then there's going to be kind of some planes of view. So there is this area down here by her feet that's going to kind of come up and around like that, where the poppies are kind of going to be filled in right here. And then by her hand, there's another level that kind of goes across to about her elbow length. So this whole section in here is going to be another sort of plane of view. And then out here, there's going to be just sort of lines. So farther away you get, the smaller our poppies are going to get. So that will immediately give us the illusion of depth if we just kind of follow those basic rules. All right, so let's see if we can get rid of some of these lines. I'm going to go ahead and just try to kind of wipe them off to begin with so that we don't have to worry about covering them with our paint. I'm just using a wet towel here.
So we got some questions when you come up for a breath.
Go for it.
So one, is she on her cell phone?
Oh, she probably is.
No, she's pulling the hair from
She might be taking a
eyes.
photograph of the beautiful flowers.
No, women are always trying to get the hair out of their eyes.
That's
so
true.
that's what they're doing.
She's maybe.
But a real question is, do you ever consider just painting the whole background before putting in the person?
I would have normally. I didn't want to take the time to do that today. But yes, normally I would have. Although with her white dress, I really didn't want to have to fight, since it was, if her dress was any color but white, I might have done that. But since her dress was white, I just didn't know if I wanted to try to work my way back to white. It's kind of hard to do that once you've put a color on there. So I think we're just going to kind of work around it today and try to leave her.
Maybe she's a ghost.
Huh?
Maybe she's a ghost if you do it that way. You can see through her.
Maybe, honey. Maybe.
I'm just, trying to help people out in their art journeys.
All right.
And the technique I use to do paintings like this, the tool that I use is my wife. So it usually comes out pretty good.
You use your wife?
Yeah, when I use that tool, yep. Not saying that she's a tool, just saying.
That reminds me. No, I'm not going to go there. Not going to go there. I'm tempted, but I won't do it. All right. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah.
All right.
We'll keep it a family show.
Okay. Sorry. We We were at a meeting one time, and there was an older gentleman that was trying to make it a point, and he was making everybody in the audience say, "I'm a tool," and we could not stop giggling. I don't think he realized that it was kind of a derogatory new slang.
Had some different meanings to
it. We were like children. I'm sorry. It still makes me giggle every time I think about it. Okay, so I've made... Stop, now I'm laughing thinking about it. Ultramarine Blue and Unbleached Titanium. And then I added just a tiny touch of yellow to it. So I may even add a little bit of white. So I want it, it's not very dark, but it's kind of a gray blue. It's not a really bright blue here. So I'm just going to go right over the top of my hill there, go right up to her hair. You can see how that pencil will kind of tint your color. So that's why I went ahead and just erased all of them that I could kind of get to, because it will make it if we had all these lines through here, it would just make everything a little bit more gray. So we don't want that. It's just easier to erase it before we have to deal with it. So welcome, guys. We kind of jumped right in today.
You just took off.
I know.
I was gone.
Well, I knew this one was going to take a long time, so I didn't want to have to set up a whole lot. I just wanted to get in there and get it started, because it's a little bit more complicated than a normal.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today.
But yeah.
This great Saturday in August. We're having fun, as you can tell. Hopefully you are. If you've just stumbled on, just found Angela live, welcome. Or in the future, if you did some kind of a search and found her, welcome.
Yes.
And you can hit the subscribe button there. You can go to her channel and check out all of her awesome tutorials, from beginner to advanced and so forth. And if you don't like to draw or do the grids, well, you're in luck. Tell them how they're in luck, honey.
Okay, well, I'll tell them in a minute.
Oh,
I'm trying to tell them how to paint right now. Sorry.
Man, we got to work on our timing.
I know. Okay, so I'm doing Ultramarine Blue and Cadmium Yellow Medium, and basically the sky color, but I'm going just a little bit darker, so just a shade darker. We have traceables available on Patreon, so patreon.com/AngelaFineArt, and I do traceables for every single one of our paintings. So you can, and I trace them straight off of the actual finished paintings, so they're exactly what I've been doing here, what you see on the video, and it's only $1 a month. So, and that's for unlimited downloads, so many as you need. Download for $1, not $1 each, just $1 plain, straight up $1 for the.
For all of them, so not just today's,
it's
last week's and Tuesdays and all the way back to February of last year.
Exactly.
And check this morning, we have over 1,400 supporters.
It's just incredible.
That's just...
It's mind-blowing.
Wow.
I just thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I cannot be more amazed. Nobody is more amazed than me.
More blessed.
Yes, exactly. So
It's
happy
incredible.
to have you guys supporting us, and it's really helped us improve our channel tremendously. Been able to get new equipment and all kinds of stuff. So
Yep, I'm currently
it's been amazing.
parting out a new computer.
Yeah, Mark's going to get us a new computer to make it a little bit,
Hopefully a little bit
smoother.
smoother.
We're running out of space on our...
Did somebody say 4K?
Ooh,
What?
Really? What?
Mm.
All right, so here I'm going just a little bit darker. This time just using a little bit more of the Ultramarine Blue and some of the Cadmium Yellow to make it a little bit of green. It's just kind of a light, soft green. It makes it kind of an olivey color. The Ultramarine Blue is more of a kind of a purpley blue. And so it mixed with that yellow, it makes kind of a neutral green. It doesn't make a really bright green. That's what we're looking for here. These are all kind of soft tones. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in. I'll probably put a little bit of detail on these hills, but not a whole lot. These are all kind of just sort of the backdrop for our girl, which is our main focus. So we want to, or sorry, woman. Make sure that this makes sense right here. These two lines kind of going behind her head there. And I'm just sort of tapping along that top edge so that I'm getting kind of a fuzzy line. It might look like it's trees or bushes or something on that horizon. It doesn't have to be anything fancy because it's soft out of focus, right? It's a little farther away. We're not really seeing all the details to it. Okay, there we go. Right, so far so good. Probably gonna have to touch up right around here. I'm noticing her hair is really gray. That whole area right there has got real gray.
Well, her hair can be gray.
Well, the sky, I mean, around her hair, it's kind of gray right there.
Oh, okay. It could be blonde.
That's true. She could be any color you wanted to make her
Could
hair.
be blue.
Yes.
She's putting up with me, everybody.
I know. Sorry.
That's okay.
This is gonna be one of those days where I'm thinking a lot. So.
Oh.
You're. Whenever I have shows like that, Mark always takes advantage and tortures me.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think I'm gonna use the smaller brush yet. I'm gonna stick with the big brush.
Teasing that brush.
Okay.
Thought it was
so for this area here, we're gonna do a little bit more kind of a brownish color. So I'm gonna use the burnt sienna. I'll go with a little bit of the ultramarine blue. It makes a gray, but it's a little bit more of a purple gray. I'm going to use a little bit of the yellow. See if that, there we go. So that's kind of a muddy brownish green color. I'm going to use the Unbleached Titanium. And I'm picking up a little bit of water every now and then so that my brush doesn't get dry. And I'm going to go right along that edge, right up here. Got a little bit of white. I want it to be fairly light. The farther away we get, the more light. If we do lighter stuff in the foreground or background and darker stuff forward, then that automatically pushes all of this stuff that's farther away back visually. It's just a good little trick to use. This area doesn't have to be perfectly straight because there's kind of some rolling hills here. It's not so far away that it looks completely flat, so you don't have to worry about it being perfectly a straight line right here. I'm just going to tap in some color all the way up to her arm there and continue it on this side. Again, using that tip of the brush to kind of create some texture. Okay. And then once I get that in, I'm going to go ahead and start grabbing a little bit of this darker color that I mixed and just tap that in horizontal sections. Just tapping horizontally, it'll create these kind of fuzzy planes of color that every now and then grab a little bit of the lighter color to tap in. It'll automatically give us some distance. And doing the horizontal lines just kind of is sort of, if you look here at our reference, you see these lines of dark, lines of red. Here's a line of white, the lighter color, almost straight across. Because it's so far away, we're kind of seeing the sections as sort of stripes. So that gives us some depth as well. Okay, let's just do that over here. We'll probably go back in to this on top, and we'll be putting in some lines with our fan brush too. But this is just kind of our initial base coat, so we're gonna get it as close as we can to what we want it to look like, but we know we're gonna be putting in details over the top too, so it doesn't have to be perfect at this point. Lots of stages to these kind of paintings. We've got lots of layers that happen, so a lot of ugly stage happening. This one is gonna be one though I think that's gonna not have too much of an ugly stage. It's gonna pretty much look fairly good most of the way through, I think, just because though.
So that sound everybody heard.
What
was Angela wetting down her paints on her palette?
Yes.
The air conditioner's on, so
you can't hear it.
It's drying out a little bit of the. Well, no, just
the spraying. Spraying my palettes.
It,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's important to keep your palette wet, moisturized. I'm going to use a little bit of burnt umber with the ultramarine, so make that kind of gray color. I'm going to use that through here. Oh, that's too dark. There we go. I missed a little spot in here on her elbow, and this is the part that I really don't like about not painting the background, because you do have to kind of paint around. This one doesn't have too much little spots like that where you have to mess with, so it shouldn't be too bad. But this dark little spot that kind of goes across is right around where her hand is, just above her hand, between the elbow and the hand. There's sort of this dark line. Grab a little bit of the lighter color, blend that over. As we get down here to the bottom, I'm going to go a lot bigger with my lines. They don't have to be as small as they were up here. The lines were a little bit smaller. Down here, I'm going to just go ahead and kind of slap it on, because this whole area can be pretty dark. We'll be putting color on top of it. Go ahead and grab some water. And I'm just going to kind of feather it up from this bottom so that we don't have a really hard edge there. We don't want a straight line on that white, because you've got a lot of this color peeking through. So if we do it this way, we won't have to fight having a straight line there that we're trying to cover later. Just give us a head start. All right. Here we go. We're done. No.
All right, thanks for joining. Hit the thumbs up if you liked it. Hit the subscribe button. It is truly a ghostly painting.
Yeah. All right, gonna grab a little bit of the green, which is our color from up there, our ultramarine blue, and cadmium yellow, and I'm just gonna put some of that in down here too. While this is wet, just working some of that green down here. Okay. Actually, let's go ahead and switch to, I'm going to switch to my number, or my 3/8 inch angle brush. I'm going to grab some of this blue from the background here. I'm grabbing Unbleached Titanium, just a tiny bit of the blue, and I'm going to create some details. I'm just going to skim this brush. I don't have a lot of paint on my brush. I'm just going to kind of skim it along that mountain to create some highlights on it. See that? Do it. Okay. And then use a little bit of white with this blue. Just go back over this area right here where it looks a little gray. And just kind of pull it up in and sort of blend it into my sky. If you use just a little bit of it and you put your darkest color right along the area where you want it to be brightest, then you can kind of, while it's still wet, you can kind of pull it up into other areas and it'll blend right in. So I'm going to go along this mountain here and just kind of try to, it's sort of blending in almost too much to that background, so just going to go in with a little bit of white here with that sky color. And just go along that edge, and then like I said, just kind of try to blend out that upper edge. If it's not blending, then take your brush and get a little bit of water, wipe it off on a paper towel. A little bit of water, wipe it off on a paper towel, and then go over your wet part. And what that'll do is it'll sponge up any extra paint. Usually if it's not blending in, it's because you got too much paint on there, and that'll help. All right, so let's use some of the, let's see. Let's go ahead and use that Unbleached Titanium and a little bit, let's go ahead and use a little red. I'm going to grab some of that green, some of this color here, mix it with there, and then we'll use that on the hillside to do some little, just using the corner of my brush to very lightly feather in. Don't have a lot of paint on my brush. I'm just kind of trying to feather in a little bit of detail on this mountain here. If you get too much paint, you can kind of rub it in with your finger. This is not super detailed. Like I said, we're just kind of trying to add a little detail to this, but not get too fussy with it. Just small little sections there. Let's go ahead and kind of go along the bottom of the horizon line and kind of blend up a little bit. Let's do that along here too. Sort of blend out that transition between the bottom hill and the mountain there a little bit. We'll kind of soften the whole thing up.
Okay, we had a question in chat.
Okay.
And I thought that it would be good for everybody to know the answer to it.
Okay.
So the question was, what is the mat that you're using underneath your painting there? And the answer is, it's called the Best Ever Craft Mat from the Ken Oliver Crafts.
Ooh, it's in my Amazon store too. So if you want to find it to purchase it, they're not very expensive, but this one is quite large. It covers...
Yes. This is the extra large one.
Right.
It is 24 by 36 inches.
So it's nice and big. Okay, I'm using kind of a medium value here, sort of the in between the light color and the darker color here, just to kind of tap in on this mountain area too. What? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so if you're watching the video, there's like a show more link or a little upside down triangle sometimes if you're on a mobile device. Click on that below the video and it'll expand out and show you the list of all the supplies that she's using. The link to the Amazon store. And there's actually 3 different.
It's right at the very top. The link to the store is right at the top.
And there's one that's called Arts and Stuff or something like that.
Art supplies, yeah. Yeah, there's three different stores in there. All right, so I'm making more green, but I added a little bit of brown. So I'm making that ultramarine blue, cadmium yellow, green, but I'm adding a little bit of brown to it to darken it up. And I'm just going to use the edge of my brush to pull up some light lines for my cypress trees that are far in the distance here. Setting it down right in the, and I'm just kind of using the tip to draw. If I pull up, I can get kind of these spiky lines that I'm looking for. Let's zoom in a little bit, hon. Okay. So I'm starting fairly solid at the bottom, but then as I go up, I'm creating these lines just by kind of using, oh, it's not focusing, there we go. They kind of curve in, so they're going up and out, but they're kind of curving in as well. There we go. Very simple. Let's add a little bit of highlight to them. Grab a little bit of the Unbleached Titanium. And I'm just going to go over with just a little bit of that. Uh-oh. That was drying. That's why it did that. That paint, you can see it gets sticky when it starts to dry. So that was starting to dry. So it lifted right off the canvas when I touched it. It'll grab onto whatever's there. Okay, so I'm going to grab some of that kind of lightened version of the trees and just dabble in just a little bit of detail along that line there. And there's some far bushes. I'll go ahead and do some down here too. Okay, go ahead and zoom out there. I'm going to make this one a little bit taller. Alright, so let's start working on our girl. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my angle brush. It's a 1/4 inch angle. Grab that burnt umber. I'm just going to go ahead and fill in her hair with this. And I'm going to pull it in the direction of her natural hair growth, so, you know, top down, kind of in lines, and that way if any of this kind of shows through later, it'll sort of look streaky and natural. We're going to definitely clean up these outer edges and add more to it, but this is just kind of our first coat, and I'm going to kind of feather out the bottom of her hair just like we did down here, so we don't have a straight line there to deal with. So just kind of pull down, and we'll make a jagged edge right here where it's touching her arm and back of her back. Don't go too far out at this point, because we want to have kind of wispy stuff happening out in this area out here. So we'll add those with a smaller brush later. All right, let's mix some skin tone. So skin tone, Yellow Oxide, Cadmium Red, and Ultramarine Blue. Those three colors in different combinations make one of the best skin tone colors. So the Yellow Oxide makes kind of a warm, caramel colored skin tone, like tan skin, a warm beigey pink, peachy color. But then the blue will kind of help neutralize it so it doesn't look so orange, because otherwise, you don't want it to look orange like she had a bad tan or something. The blue will kind of neutralize that. And then sometimes the skin's going to look a little bit more like blue purplish or greenish, depending on the way the light's hitting it. So then you would add a little bit more of one of the other colors just to kind of help with that. So I'm adding Unbleached Titanium here. I have all three colors on my brush still, so they're just kind of mixing. It's making a nice kind of medium beige skin tone here. Might add just a little bit more of the gold. Because she's out in the sun. And we'll go ahead and put that on to begin with. We'll definitely need several coats here because we've got this background that we're kind of fighting with. And I'm not going to really put a lot of detail into her fingers or anything. What we're going to do is kind of cover most of that with the flowers, but I am going to kind of come down in that same motion where the fingers would be so that, there's the indication of that color down there, and then we'll fill it in with flowers over the top.
So for my own wanting to know,
Yes.
How would you take the skin tone like a little bit darker?
You could use burnt Sienna and burnt Umber and add a little bit of blue to it. A little bit of the Yellow Oxide. It's really the same colors, only you just darken it with like the burnt Umbers and burnt Siennas to make it more of a brown tone. If you want it like a more olive skin tone, you'd add a little bit more of the blue and yellow, green, with the darker tones like the burnt Umber to darken it, and then, but add a little bit more of the blue greens. But yeah, I actually did a tutorial. Tiana, the Disney princess, showed how to do dark skin tones on her. It turned out really good. I found that the just burnt umber plus white made it kind of a purple tone, so it was a little bit too purple. So you kind of had to work with a little bit of red to add it back in there. And burnt sienna seemed to work pretty well. Red iron oxide was a good color too to work in there. So good question.
Thank
All
you.
right, so you can see how that's a good kind of basic peachy undertone for her skin. We're trying to get rid of all of these lines from our drawing. And I just kind of went over the hair just slightly to kind of blend that whole area in so it's a little bit indistinct. I'm going to grab some of this darker color and go under here because this whole area is kind of dark and tanned. And I'm going to run it up the crease of the arm a little bit. Just using in the back of her elbow too is dark. Kind of in shadow. There. There's a shadow right here on her elbow.
Yeah, she might be on her cell phone. She's probably just wandering around the field.
She's like, I'm lost.
Trying to get good cell service. Can't get any bars out here in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. How'd she get dropped off in the middle of nowhere is what I want to know. Where's her partners?
If you
off hunting or something.
if you paint a cell tower in the background there.
And why the
then-
white dress?
Exactly. What's the storyline here? Is she running away from her own wedding? What's going on? She's like, here, somebody come get me, please.
To know. We're so weird. Somebody, one of my friends was talking about, how much she enjoyed the shows. She, she gets a little slice of our
Of our life.
So we have these stupid conversations all the time, but now they're recorded.
Yeah.
So, it makes it a lot more fun. All right, so I'm making a little bit different green. So the first time we did the green, we used cadmium yellow with the ultramarine blue that made a brighter green. Like, even though it's still a dull green, it's still a little bit more bright, kind of blue green. This time I'm using yellow oxide with the ultramarine blue, and it's going to make a much more olive toned green. So kind of yellowish green. So I'm going to use that. Grab a little bit of white. I'm going to use that to create some highlights on our field up here. I'm just going to use this small brush here. It seems to be working pretty well. I'm just going to tap in some horizontal little dib-dabs and lines. See that? So we've got kind of a little sort of medium. It was still lighter back here, but it wasn't, completely light. So this time we're going a little bit lighter over the top of that darker color, adding some layers. So let's go ahead and try it with our fan brush here.
So this is kind of like a highlights magazine because people have found a seagull in your palette.
They have.
Mm-hmm.
Right here.
Yep. It's
awesome.
a good job, people.
Nice.
There's
nice.
only 6 more hidden objects.
Oh, that was one of my favorite things. And the ones where it was like, what's different between this side and this side? I had to figure out.
You go to the dentist's office and you hope that it was a new magazine.
Right.
Because inevitably somebody would have already gone and circled them all.
Oh, I hate
And you're
that.
like, why? Why would you do that?
I know. That's just not right. Okay, so I'm trying to find the right kind of color here. Going with ultramarine blue and brown, which will make that gray, and then adding a little bit of that yellow oxide to make it a little bit of green. Let's use it. It's too dark. Let's add a little bit of a lighter color. Try that again. There we go. We actually had a fan moment this week, which was really fun. One of Spencer's teachers in
In high school.
high school, when we walked in, she was like saying to Spencer, she's like, "Do I know you?" And he's like, "I don't know, I'm Spencer." She starts talking to him, and then we got to talking about Jim Carrey speeches because she was the speech teacher, and she was like, "Yeah," and I said, "Yeah, he likes art, or he's doing art now." And she's like, "Yeah, I like art. I do art too." And I was like, "Oh, me too." And she stops and she looks at me and she goes, "Are you Angela?" I'm like, yeah. And she gives me a big hug. She was like, "I follow you on Facebook." That was too weird. It was awesome.
Yeah. Spencer and I just stood there and looked at each other.
What was her name? You have to ask Spencer. I forgot already. That's bad. Sorry. So I was gonna give her a shout out, but
Okay, I'll go get her.
go
name
find
real
out.
quick.
Go find out.
Okay.
I should have remembered that.
And the people that have found a Mardi Gras mask also on your palette. So,
Really?
yeah.
Ah, there it is. That's awesome. That's great. I love it. So hopefully Spencer will do well in there. I told him not to embarrass me. So. All right, so here we go. We're going to do these darker areas first, and then that way we can kind of put our lighter colors on top, and they'll kind of blend out this bottom edge here. So don't worry too much about these edges yet, but just as you can see, I'm not doing a solid line. That's the main thing. It'll make it much easier to blend this all in later if we don't have a solid line that we're working with. So, and every now and then as we get farther down, we can go a little bit bigger, a little bit taller with this, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of use the side of it and create some kind of spiked bushes kind of things.
Okay, it was Miss Carney.
Miss Carney. I knew it started with a C. I couldn't remember. Miss Carney. So shout out to Miss Carney. She had Jordan too when he was in school. He remembers her. So.
Yeah, because she was like, well, she thought she recognized Spencer, and I was like, well, how long have you been here? And she said, how long she been there? And I was like, well, maybe he had our other sons.
Right.
And she was like, oh, well, we need to see your pictures, and then it went downhill from there with the whole fangirl thing, and and then we asked our sons afterwards. He was like, oh yeah, I had her.
Yeah, he knew her. So that's fun. I think that's the first time anybody's done that. It's pretty fun. Funny.
She said nothing about me.
I know she didn't. Mark said that as we walked away. It's like she didn't even mention me.
Exactly. What's wrong with her?
I couldn't do without you, and that is for sure.
Oh yeah, go back to the first few videos you did. You could see you were doing all right.
I was doing all right, but I have a lot more fun with you.
Well, okay.
Going with the Unbleached Titanium here, just kind of add in some color. Okay, so if you wanted to keep this a little bit more simple, you could do just what we did at the very beginning. We could just leave it like this, because you can see how it kind of already looked like kind of like spiky, leaves and things. So you don't have to do these extra layers if you don't want to. If you wanted to just kind of stop, if you liked what what we had going on there at the beginning, you don't have to go back and do these extra layers. This is just optional here. This is just to add it, make it a little bit more realistic looking. Grab some of that green and keep my palette sprayed.
Oh.
Grab some of this green. What?
Somebody would like to know how long you've been painting. I'm going to say about 53 minutes. We just decided to do this today. No, sorry. Go ahead. Since
1988. That's when I started, really kind of getting serious about it. I didn't, I wasn't professional then. I was still in college learning and all that good stuff. So
I was 4. So I was preschool.
Yeah. Mark and I were lovesick teenagers, separated by 3,000 miles. He moved all the way from New Hampshire to Arizona so that I could finish my last 2 years of high school. Got married 2 weeks after I graduated.
Mm-hmm. What were we thinking?
I don't know. It's a miracle we made it. We didn't have a clue what we were doing. You were a lot nicer than I was, I think. It was pretty much a pill, I think, to live with for a long time.
Were you a tool?
Probably was a tool. You must have really liked me to put up with me.
You are
No
right.
comment. There's a long pause. He's like, what do I say?
No, I was reading this. I was reading chat at the wrong time. So they said that I was a twig boy instead of a stick man back then.
Twig
in
boy,
chat.
yeah.
I was
With
pretty,
the mustache. You
I was
need to
pretty-
do stick man with the mustache next time. He had a full on.
I was pretty skinny. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, he was.
I might have been 140 pounds, maybe.
Yeah.
So to answer the question,
30 years.
about 30 years.
About 30 years.
Yep.
Yep.
So we got distracted talking about us.
I know. How did that happen? I don't know. Oh, because of, yeah.
So
It
you
always
were-
makes me think when I first started painting was when Mark and I were first kind of dating and getting married and all that stuff.
You took,
All right, so
you
you
took
can-
art in college.
Huh?
You took art
Yeah,
in
it was
college.
my major in college.
Mhm.
Yep. So adding a little bit of greens to it. I don't know if you can kind of see that in there. Now you can see it sort of sideways. Adding little greens. We're just kind of softening up the bottom edges mostly of these darker areas. I don't want to cover them up completely, but I do kind of want to soften them, make them look like they're parts of the field. But there's a lot of these little bits and pieces of these dark areas kind of poking through in places. That's what'll give our field depth. So don't be afraid of going in and, adding these dark areas. That's what gives our paintings kind of more realism. Tap over these areas that's kind of spiky flowers with some green. Fill them in there. You can see it's kind of starting to come together, starting to look a little bit more realistic the more we work on it.
So you're just layering in different colors and textures,
Yeah.
and just kind of giving it that wild field.
Right. Yeah, that's the main thing is you don't want to get too fussy with any one little particular area. And there's a lot of overlapping with fields. That's the thing. You're never really going to see any one thing kind of in focus. Everything's going to be kind of doing like this, so you're seeing little bits of this and maybe a little tiny piece of this in between other things. So I'm working from the back forward, and that way as I add more layers, these other things are kind of getting things pushed on top of them, just like your fingers. We're adding.
And I see also that, and you may have said this, and I apologize, but I see that you're making the brush basically dance. You're not keeping it pointing the same direction. You're going up and down, side to side, so that everything's not looking squared off and uniform.
Right. No, I did not say that. That was good.
So you're keeping it as random as possible by not only just dabbing in different places, but also twisting and turning the brush.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You've been watching.
I know what I'm doing.
I know.
A little bit. It's the Cab Red that's helping me.
The Cab Red. Are you drinking wine? It's early.
You didn't put that in here. Shh. You didn't put that in your list.
No, I didn't. It does help.
It's in the... so for all the husbands out there, your supply list is...
Hey, there's
Cab
guys
Red
that like to paint. It's not just the girls that are
That's
painting.
true.
We have guys that are painting.
Yeah, Dave's in chat.
Oh. Some of the best artists are men.
Darn tootin'. That's right. And some of the worst. I'm raising my hand over here.
Okay, so as I'm kind of doing these sort of upward sweeping brush strokes, I'm kind of got a little bit of an angle. These are getting a little too tight here, like too uniform, so I'm just going to grab some of my gray, or let's grab some yellow oxide. Get some kind of golden tones going on in here too. There's a lot of gold. And we're just going to kind of obscure it so that it's not like solid color there. Yeah, the yellow oxide's good. Good, get some of that in there. Let's add some over here. No, we've already got these layers in here, so I don't want to cover them up too much. May have to put some of that back in later, but yeah, this is good. Definitely need some of this gold going on. Farther away, we're just going to tap, tap, tap. Do these horizontal lines of tapping. We're not going to do, you know, it wouldn't look realistic if you had this big, huge grass, you know, coming from way far away. Look like a tree or something. Pull everything out of perspective. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this. Farther away, straight lines. Closer up, then you can kind of start getting the grass happening. And okay, yeah, that yellow added a lot. Okay, let's add a little bit of burnt sienna to our yellow and do a little bit of that. We're using all these browns, all of these golden colors in here for our field. Just adding layers. And I don't have to add it everywhere. I can just kind of pick a few places. Now that we've got kind of our basic stuff down, now we're kind of picking and choosing where we want to put some of these other colors to add some interest. Let's just go ahead and put some of these down in here, just kind of some streaks of, and I'm kind of doing it sideways here and just getting bigger streaks of color. There's not a whole lot of paint on my brush here. Okay. There we go. All right, it's looking good. So let's get our dress in.
About time.
Are you worried about it?
I was going to put a big black block over that section there. Redacted.
So weird.
Thank you. True love.
Okay. Going with some yellow oxide. I'm adding a little bit of this base dark color. That was all three colors, kind of almost in equal parts here. I'm gonna add a gold yellow right here to her shoulder. Down the outside of her arm. Go ahead and zoom in now, since we're getting into some of the detail part here on her arm. So honestly, you could just do sort of this first layer like we did and, you know, call it good. We don't have to continue to add more layers. It's going to be close enough. The Unbleached Titanium is a really good highlight color for skin tone. It's very close to a skin tone color already. So we can kind of tap it in lightly. I'll wipe off most of my paint there. Just get a little touch of it. Lay it down, wipe my brush off completely. So it's still wet. It's not completely dry, but it doesn't have a lot of paint on it. And I can kind of pull that paint down and push it around where I want it to go while it's wet. Put it the lightest part down where we want it to be brightest. So I want kind of a bright highlight right along there. And then I'm going to use some of that yellow, kind of come up from the bottom here and just tap in where they meet so that they kind of blend together a little bit. And this area is pretty dark, so I'm going to go and grab some of the cadmium red, mix that with the yellow, add some of that blue. Wipe off my brush, and then I'm going to add some of that in and kind of just tap it in and pull it up into that wet paint area. Then I'm going to grab some blue, a little bit of burnt umber with that color. We'll use that as our shadow. So just cut a little bit by the color so it's not super dark, but we want it fairly dark for this little crease right here. So we're just going to use it right there and along the edge of the dress. A little shadow right there, and we're going to use it on the back side of her arm right here where it touches right there. Let's go ahead and use it on the elbow a little bit down here and in this crease. Right there. A little bit of it under here. And then I want to blend this out, so I'm going to grab some of the kind of medium color. And whoop, too much water. And just blend over that edge there a little bit. Right, then there is a bright highlight right here. It kind of runs the top of her arm. And there's a little elbow right here, kind of an elbow crease right up there. That paint is starting to dry, so it's lifting on me. Dang it. I hate when that happens. Alright, let's try to put that back in. If it starts to lift on you, you can kind of touch it up by putting in some thicker paint. Usually that'll stick. But I'm just gonna have to leave that and come back to it. Okay, using some of this darker color on the back of the elbow here. Yeah, that is just, look at that. That whole area is lifting up. I need to stop messing with it.
Yeah, there's this YouTube artist that suggests that you don't mess with acrylic paint when it's wet because it lifts.
I know.
You should check out some of her videos. They're pretty good.
It was dry. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit now. now. I'm going to have to touch up that part of the elbow there. Just a little bit, sadly. Oh, that's frustrating. Okay, let's grab my 2/0 round and some of the Unbleached Titanium. I'm going to add a little highlight to the back of her elbow. Let's add a little tiny bit of red to it to give it like a kind of a pink tone, just slightly pink. Maybe a little bit of white. Yellow oxide or Unbleached Titanium has kind of some yellow oxide and brown in it, so it's already kind of a neutralizing color. So it'll work really well for the skin tones. There's a little bit of it right here. A little bit on top of the shoulder again. Right there. And then her wrist has some highlight on it. The side of her hand coming down right there. All right, I think that's all we're gonna do on her. We really don't need a lot of extra detail. We're keeping it kind of soft and fuzzy looking, so I think that'll do. So let's grab, let's see, no, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do the 1/4 inch angle, and we'll do her dress. So let's grab some Ultramarine Blue and some white. And just a little bit of our yellow oxide to kind of neutralize it a little bit. And then I'm going to do a kind of a darker area over here. This is like 4 parts blue to 1 part yellow, so we don't want it to be green, but we just want it to kind of be slightly neutralized. Similar to this color back here that we did up here, except for using the yellow oxide. All right, there we go. Let's see. I'm going to use this along our dress here. And up this way. This is our darkest color here. This is darker than we need it to be. At this point, let's grab that kind of medium color. Do it right up under her arm here. Just going to kind of do stripes along that white there. Wipe that off. Grab some white. While that's wet, I'm going to come up through. Add some ruffles to the bottom of her shirt here. And it's going out over her arm right here. We'll add more detail to it here in a minute, but it's kind of our basic. Tap in along the top edge to kind of give it a little border, right? A little elastic line right there. And then let's do some lines down here. going up. Sweep across for the waistband. And then some lines down. Going through that darker color that we just put on to create some little puckers in the fabric. Like that. And then going to go ahead and just kind of use that. This brush still has some of that blue in it, so you can see how it's adding some streaks of the darker blue with there in some places. So that works for us. Grabbing some white, but I'm not cleaning out my brush, but I'm not using that blue here. I'm just using white. But the blue is kind of coming off my brush because it's in there still. So that when I press down really hard, some of the places that I press down hard will have a little bit of that blue color in it. Let's grab a little bit more of that dark blue and just put a little crease through her dress right there. There's one kind of coming off the side right here. Let's go ahead and do some dark. There. So pretty. You're not supposed to be saying she looks pretty, honey. You're not supposed to notice that.
Oh, she's ugly. I thought you were doing a self-portrait.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, I see.
Sorry,
good answer. Good answer.
My mistake.
Good answer. Okay. And then we'll come up from the bottom with some of this blue-gray kind of color. And we're just going to blend it down into our grass down here, where it's sort of disappearing down into the field where she's standing.
Or floating.
You're still going with the ghost theory?
You can't prove it's not, so that's what I'm saying.
All right. Going with really bright white now. Just add just a few little highlights here and there where I want some of these pleats to look like they're folded. Maybe get parts of the dress to kind of stick out a little bit. I think that's good. Might bring this shadow down just a little bit more and darken up this area here. So I'm going to add a little bit of burnt umber and ultramarine blue. And I'm just going to go in with the tip of the brush very carefully and just add just a few little, very dark. Be really careful with this because you don't want it to overwhelm it, but it'll really add depth right there. A little bit under the waistband coming down, just tiny little dots and lines where we want that waist definition. There we go. And we can maybe, there's not as much of the super dark up here, but we can put a little bit of it. Maybe a little bit more watered down up there.
So while you're doing this, I mean, how softly or lightly are you touching the canvas?
I'm just barely touching with the very tip of the brush because I don't want to press down too hard or I'll get a really big, dot.
Okay.
So the harder I press, the bigger the, spot is going to be. So I'm trying to keep it pretty small. All right, so let's see. This should be hopefully dry. We'll find out. We're going to use this Ultramarine Blue, Red, Burnt Umber kind of combo. There we go. Covering. All right. Let's add a little bit more of the red and yellow to that. A little bit of the blue. A little bit of unbleached titanium. So it's just different tones of these three colors. And adding the burnt umber to darken it up when we need it. Okay, there we go. There's the crease of the elbow. All right, so let's start with the hair. It's gonna be fun. Grab, oh, I just realized I forgot a brush. Forgot to mention brush. We're gonna want a liner, so I'm gonna use this one liner, number one liner. So we're already in an hour and a half.
Yep.
Okay.
About 3/4 through the wine. About how long we are.
Okay, I'm gonna go along this outside edge of her hair, thinning down my paint so it's watery, so I can get some smooth lines out of it. And I'm gonna start with the burnt umber color. And her hair's wavy, so I'm just going to kind of, as I'm pulling it at the end, I'm going to sort of turn it a little bit so I get little kind of wispy ends on it with a little bit of movement. If you're not comfortable with the liner brush, you can use a little bit bigger brush, just not do as many, small lines. You can still do this hair, but just kind of do a little bit thicker pieces, maybe. So they're actually going over the top of the dress right here. Okay, and then let's grab some burnt umber or burnt sienna and yellow oxide for our highlights. Put a few of those in first. They're not going to really show up much against this brown yet. We'll add some unbleached titanium to the burnt umber. And her hair up here has got quite a few little bright highlights in it. we'll put those in first. And we're just going to kind of pick a few little spots for these golden highlights to happen. There we go. And just kind of run some little curves through her hair and kind of cluster them so that they're in groups. That'll make it look a little bit more natural. Kind of crisscrossing them so that they're covering each other a little bit here and there. And go a little bit lighter than you think you need to, because you can always darken it up. Now we're going to go in with our burnt umber. This is where the carbon black comes in. We're going to go ahead and use a little bit of that. Make sure you're always watering this down really well, otherwise it just won't even come off your brush. And we're just going to go in and add some shadows. Come up right up next to some of these light colors and just add a little shadow in between and on the other side. It'll kind of darken them up. Few little hairs kind of coming out over the edge of our line there. Just soften that up. This is burnt umber again. Grab some of the dark, do some really dark right down in here. Going with yellow oxide, burnt sienna, some white. Really pretty yellow gold color. And just add a few more little highlights in. I'm going to let that dry and see. It usually dries a little bit darker, so I might add a little bit more detail to that. Once it dries, we'll see. I'm creating my shadow color for my dress here. Burnt umber and ultramarine blue and white. Just going to define the outside of this dress a little bit. do gray with the burnt umber and ultramarine blue.
Real quick, which brush are you using right now?
This is a number 1 liner
Okay.
brush. And I'm just going to do lines up through her dress. Holding it very far back and just running the tip, barely touching the tip down. And if I don't draw it and I just kind of set it down and drag it, make sure I have enough water on my brush so that this, there we go. I could do these lines without too much trouble. Just barely getting it so that it's just the tip is touching down here. And then doing it pretty quick. Don't move your hand, just do this motion with your fingers. Practice it on paper a little bit before you do this part because it can be kind of scary. But we're going to go all the way up to here with these. So I'm going to start down kind of low. And just kind of obscure that bottom edge of the dress, right? So we can't really tell what's going on there. And then we're going to bring some of these up really nice and high. I'm crisscrossing them, and some of them I'm kind of doing a little curlicue with them so that they're curving a little bit, so they're not going all completely straight. All right, and then let's just keep on going with this because we got to add more all the way across here.
Oh, we got a good question I do not know the answer to.
Okay.
They want to know, for the line or cactus painting, do you have to vote on Patreon? So you have the viewer's choice?
Yes, you do. Yes, the voting is only for patrons because it's a thank you for them for meeting our goal, our monthly goal that we wanted. So but we're going to do the painting public. So it's going to be a public painting, but the voting part is just for the Patreon folks, and they are voting and commenting to enter to win.
Okay.
So
and
because you comment, you vote, and then you comment in that same poll down in the comment section, and it enters you to win the painting once we do it, whatever it is we're going to do. And we won't announce it until that morning. The Patreon folks will know.
Okay, and is it for all levels of Patreon?
Yes, any level.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. You hear that, Bill? Elon, got that? Okay.
Even the $1 million level.
Even the $1 million level. Somebody out there, come on. Come on.
Mark really wants to retire.
Just saying. I mean, look under the cushions in the sofa. You might have some loose laying around.
Mm-hmm. Don't listen to him, guys. All right, so doing a little bit darker. You know you've got people that you make mad by commenting about that.
Really?
Just adding fuel to the fire to the haters club that we have.
Okay,
It doesn't matter what we say, though. They're going to hate us anyway. So.
I'll start mentioning the sheiks and the others, too.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to just keep on going here. I don't have to do too much down in this area, but I do want to kind of add a few of these dark. This is that black that I was using up in the hair. I'm using some of that too down here. So I want to make sure that I don't have like a straight line of things starting right there. So these down here can be fairly large because these ones down at the very bottom are quite big. The poppies and leaves. If you get too much on there, just kind of use your finger and sort of wipe it in. It'll just darken that area. Oh, she's gonna be so pretty. Okay. Making it. is my favorite part of the painting process. Everything else just kind of leads up to this final little bit where you're actually kind of seeing what it's going to, you know, come together and start to really look like something. It's really fun. Do some with the Unbleached Titanium. The Unbleached Titanium has all these kind of little dots. There's some like lighter colored wheat looking things that are happening. So I'm just going to kind of do dabs and little random things with my brush here. Just not really defining anything too much. Just kind of dabbing and scrubbing a little bit. Use the tip of the brush and just kind of draw it up and down. Get some of this kind of, need to zoom out a little bit now for this part. It's just keep going off camera there. Okay, thanks.
So people can stop at any point they want to, any point they think they're done.
Right.
You know, if they like this look, put the brush down, step away.
Right.
Don't feel like you have to keep on going on.
Right. Nope. Just do as much or as little as you want on this.
And we won't call you a quitter.
No, we won't.
Never.
No judging.
No, because it's your creation, it's your art. There is no right or wrong way here.
That's right.
So, unless you put like eyes on the back of her head, then I'm calling you out on that. But then again, if she's a mom, she does have eyes in the back of her head. So.
That's true. That's true. Just kind of drawing in little bitty flowery things in our field. And this liner brush is going to kind of do all kinds of weird stuff when you kind of, you know, press down on it in different directions. So it'll actually kind of help with that random look that we're going for. It'll help kind of break up our... And if you get any areas that are just too much, just kind of wipe them off. You can also use a paper towel like I did earlier to get them if they're really thick. But this is just going over all our dark areas. So we're getting all these really pretty little fuzzy things, indistinct. Let's do a little bit with a blue and a tiny bit of yellow, a little bit of white, some of this color up here, put it down in our field down here. It'll unify it. It's also in our dress, so kind of helps pull all the colors. I do this a lot, vice versa, you know, like take the colors down here and put them up in the sky, like if we were doing clouds or things like that. I might, you know, put a little touch of the green brown that we're using down here into the sky clouds, and then in this case we're pulling that blue from the sky down into our field. Just helps. Now, all of a sudden, it all kind of looks like it's part of the same family. So our hair dried pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and grab some burnt umber. And I'm going to use my angle brush. Now that we have all this light color on there, go ahead and zoom in, hon. I'm going to lighten up.
Make up my mind
Create
here.
a wash with some water and my burnt umber. Wipe my brush off so it's just a little bit of color here. And then I'm just going to kind of go over and lightly tone down the hair in a few places. If I get too much, I can kind of wipe it off. Well, what this will do is kind of tone down those highlights, make them look a little bit more integrated, especially where they start and stop, or right where they start mostly. See how that did? I hope that was not too shiny for you to see, but kind of just, there's a shadow right here. I'm going to go ahead and use this brown. There's a shadow right here on her dress where it comes down of her arm right there. Okay. Then I'm going to use this angle brush for the poppies. So let's grab some of the Cadmium Red Light, a little bit of the yellow oxide. These ones back in the far distance. Add a little bit of white to them. Give them a little bit softer. I'm just going to use the tip of my brush to tap in my little poppies from way back here and pointing it straight down towards the canvas. These ones way back here are maybe not even going to be a dot. They'll just be kind of a line. There might be so many of them kind of together in one spot, but then don't press down too hard. You don't want these to be really big. You want to stay really small. And then as we get down here closer, we can start pressing down a little harder. Get a little bit bigger flowers. Still keep them very small though. Go through here. Got some right up under her elbow here. We've got the whole section of them. Keep them horizontal in like little lines, growing in little horizontal lines. It can be kind of zigzag lines. Don't have to be perfectly straight, but you don't want them, you don't want to do a line that does, well, I mean, depending on your field. This one is pretty flat field. If you had hills and things like that, then you could do some that were curving down. But this one is, kind of a flat field. There might be a little bit of rolling motion to some of it, but mostly it's flat. So we're going to keep these areas of our flowers pretty flat too. It's pretty straight. Tiny little bits back in here. You can barely even tell what that is. I'm not really going to be able to tell that they're flowers back there. Okay. Oh, she's so pretty. I can't stand it. It's so cute. Okay, better. Let me stop.
I'm not saying anything since it's not you.
It's okay. It's okay. I was just teasing.
I'm not seeing what you're saying.
Yellow here.
Just yucky.
She's so ugly.
I know. Can't even see her face, and I already know.
That is the man that's been married for 30 years. Experience right there. Right there. Fellas.
Self-preservation.
He knows. Okay, so this is cadmium yellow with some of that orangey color, just adding a few little random flowers with kind of a more yellow tone. I can see just a few out here. Maybe some yarrow or something like that growing out in there. Yarrow. It's a kind of a flat-topped yellow flower. Maybe daisies, who knows? Let's grab some white. Clean out my brush a little bit. Grab some white. Do some white dabs. It's mixing with this color so it's not pure white. I'm really trying to stay away from covering up too much of these darker areas, so I'm sort of staying away from them when I'm doing this. These dots. Kind of finding areas in between are dark. Now we'll put the poppies over everything, but for now so let's grab some of our Unbleached Titanium, some of our blue, some of our Cadmium Yellow, medium, making a green, light green, maybe add some white. I want it pretty light. I'm gonna do some, a little bit more yellow. I want it more green. There we go. I'm going to run some lines with this down here close by because we've got some kind of brighter leafy things happening. So I'm just going to do some dabs to indicate some maybe some leaves and things that are happening in our poppy area. Okay, so we want to be sure that we're covering over her hand too. I forgot about that. So we don't want her hand to be kind of just sticking out there looking like it's not attached to anything. So let's put some kind of leaves around over the top of her hand there. Both sides. Right there. Obscuring the start and stop of her hand. Or the tips of her fingers, really. Okay. If you get too much of these lighter colors, you can always go back in and add some more of the dark if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and add some of this green over the top of the dress and do some little, grab some burnt umber, add it to that green, and do some little tops of pea pods, right? The little seed pods on these poppies happening all over the place. So let's just go ahead and dab those all over. They're just little tiny dots, really. Grab some of the burnt umber. Do some dots with that. This whole area right here, from our hand down, we're going to have fairly big flowers. So you can go fairly large with these little dots for the seed pods. Up here they might be a little bit smaller, so we can kind of do a little bit smaller dots, but we still will see these. Okay. I love this painting so much. Can't really stand it. It's looking so pretty.
Man, I'm glad we didn't have a drinking game of every time you said I love this painting.
Do really?
Because
I've been saying it a lot.
Because none of us would be really with it right now.
It would be all not sober. All right, I'm gonna grab some Cadmium Red Medium, which will be a more bright red, obviously, and then some of the Cadmium Red Light also. And we'll start putting in the flowers. So I did more muted flowers back in here, right? We added a lot of white. So now the closer we get, the brighter our colors are going to be, the more intense, and the bigger they'll be too. So there we go. What?
Some of the chatters think that maybe having a video with the drinking game may be
fun.
Maybe interesting.
After hours with Angela and Mark. I don't know.
Yes, but
I would have to drink too.
You have to participate too.
That could get interesting. Although drinking just gives me stomach aches, so it wouldn't be as fun for me.
True. And I'd be over here sleeping.
Right. Yeah. Mark's gonna fall asleep, and
video goes on for like 7 hours of just nothing.
Excuse me, don't make me laugh. I'm choking. Yeah. Okay, so you can see these flowers are, some of them are circular because they're facing us, but most of them are going to be in a more like this motion because they're facing up. So a lot of them are going to be kind of triangles. So to get that look, if you press down with the tip of the brush and kind of draw it to the side or down this way, go ahead and zoom in here, hon. Zoom it. Zoom me. Okay, good. So sit at an angle, a little bit of an angle right here, and just kind of sit it down and sort of draw it to the side. You'll get that kind of triangle look that we're going for, and you don't have to do too much else to it. You can kind of do a little dabs off to the side to sort of make it irregular. But for the circular ones, you can just press kind of almost straight down. You'll get kind of circular looking flowers. So I'm just really kind of tapping my brush. I'm not drawing each one individually. It'll look a little bit more natural if you just kind of let them happen at different sizes. We'll put a few over her hand there to kind of cover that up. And then as we get on top of the dress here, there's going to be some, we'll do ones right here. They're kind of below the top of the seed pods, so they don't go all the way up to the top there. Big one right here. The ones that get farther down, we can get quite a bit bigger. Right. Go ahead and zoom back out because I'm going off camera. Sorry. So all of these right by her here are kind of clustered pretty close together. And then as they get farther out, they get a little bit farther apart. These ones down here are not super close together.
What's the sighing for?
Nothing.
Okay. And if you were bored or tired or this or what?
No, just thinking.
Okay.
Okay, and then let's grab the burnt umber. And maybe a little bit of black. And go ahead and have that red on your brush too. So I'm going to cut the color a little bit. We'll just start dabbing in some little centers on a few of these. They don't have to be all of them. I'm not going to see the centers of all of these. Most of them are kind of pointing straight up. Try to pick the ones that are maybe circular. That way it kind of makes more sense that we're seeing the center of it. I'm going to go ahead and put in a taller seed pod right here. Now we want to do some highlights on them. So I'm going to grab some cadmium yellow and cadmium red light, and we'll go in and dab in some highlights on some of these poppies. I'm going to grab some darker red. I feel like I want some bigger ones right here. just put some random little red dots here and there, or maybe part of the flowers showing. Okay. Grabbing some white, mixing a little bit more yellow in with that color that we were using for our highlights. We'll go ahead and do a little bit more. And these highlights are just kind of going on the tops of some of the flowers. Little dabs of color.
Do you want to hear what they're saying in chat?
What?
All right. They're saying the prettiest tutorial I've ever seen.
What?
Angela only paints beautiful paintings. Always better than the reference.
Oh.
Absolutely. Love you guys, and the picture is beautiful.
That's
Love,
awesome.
love this painting.
Me too.
I think this is my new favorite of yours.
Oh. Might be mine too. I really do. As soon as I saw the photograph, I was like, gotta do that. Like, it was just like calling me. So this has been super fun. That's awesome. Thank you guys. I'm glad you like it as much as I do.
Is her name Dorothy?
Why?
Poppies.
Ah, she's in a poppy field. Got it. Check. Sorry. Took me a second.
That's okay.
All right. Do we see anything else we need to do? I think I'm pretty happy with that. What we could do is go back in with the really bright red, just the Cadmium Red Light, and add a little bit of that. Just to really brighten up just a few of these if we need to. Sometimes going over these darker colors, it can be hard. The dark color kind of seeps through, so we can kind of punch up those colors and add a little bit more of that bright red here and there on some of these.
So now, are you an artist like everybody else? You get up and put your pants on one leg at a time in the morning.
Ha.
But now you're going to need more cowbell.
Oh, cowbell. All right. Let's do it. Do we get some super chats?
I'll turn down my mic.
Go for it.
Oh, wait a minute. And get the disco lights too.
Ooh, disco lights.
We've had several super chats today.
Really? Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
So we have one from Sheila, and she says, "This is for me being such a tool." That's awesome. And then one from Nancy. She says, "Just a little something for a new computer."
Ooh, nice. Thank you.
And Carol says, "Thanks, Angela and Mark. Just watching has helped me deal with this week."
Oh, well, I hope you have a better week next time, next week.
And then we had one from Gail. And she says, "Beautiful job. Love to watch you paint." Me too. Okay, now I'm going to try to hold it together here. So.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So this one isn't a super chat, but it leads into one of the super chats. So we had Mary, and she said, "I'm 77 years old, have bad knees, breast cancer in remission this year, more or less a shut-in, and Angela has given me a reason to be excited about something." Sorry, that look that we just gave each other.
I know.
We're trying to hold it together.
We're
here.
not. Try not
So,
to cry here.
yeah.
Thank you. That's special. That means so much. You don't even know. Wow.
So then the next super chat from Sandy says, I had open heart surgery and started my first painting 4 years ago. Angela keeps me going too. I was getting discouraged until I discovered Angela and Mark. Love you guys more than you know.
Wow. Y'all are making me cry today. Stop. Okay. I'm just adding little highlights here to the little poppy seed heads. Wow. Y'all are so sweet. That means so much. You don't even know. Whew. Okay.
For sure.
Can I talk? No, I don't know if I can talk. I'm going to try.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much. We love you. We're so happy to be able to do this with you. It's just a dream come true. It really is for me, and to get to share my love for painting with you guys, and to have other people that enjoy it too. It's just really awesome. Yeah. Okay. I can't talk anymore. We're going to start crying.
So why don't you sign the painting?
Oh, okay. I'll sign it. Good idea. There we go.
With your Sakura something or other pen?
Pigma. Sakura's a brand. Pigma FB is the fine brush. FB fine brush. Pigma is the make of the pen, I guess. Yeah. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. We so appreciate you and you watching with us every week. It's been a really fun tutorial today. Hope you try it. You got another super chat right at the end?
We just got another one from Sandy.
Oh.
No message, but...
Oh, thank you, Sandy. And so like Mark said, if you want to find this traceable for this, if you don't want to have to draw it, you can find that on patreon.com/AngelaFineArt. And all the materials and everything down in the Amazon store, links to all that. And we'll be back on Tuesday night. We're going to be painting a dragonfly, so that'll be fun.
And, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, don't forget your social media.
Oh, yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah, share this. If you like painting and you know other people that might enjoy seeing it too, please share it. That helps spread the word about our channel.
Those links are down below. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yes.
What's one I always forget?
Pinterest.
Yeah, so go down there, hit all those. You can share your paintings, see what everybody else is doing. You know,
Facebook we've got a really great group of people on Facebook. That group, Thankful Art.
It is monitored and controlled.
Yeah.
So there's no meanies.
Right. There's no meanies. It's all safe to share your art that you've done from my tutorials. And we do art chats in there. So I talk and answer questions and things every Monday. So.
And then, so I cut you off. You were talking about Tuesday's show. And I'll ring the bell one more time. Another super chat.
Ooh, what?
From Lori. So no message, but thank you
Lori.
so much, Lori. We appreciate it, everybody. So Tuesday show's a dragonfly.
Yeah, adding a little dark right here.
Second in the series.
Dragonfly, second in the series, goes along with our little ladybug that we did. So we'll do it on a 6x6 inch canvas again. And it'll be a little dragonfly. Should be a simple one. She's on a thistle. And then next Saturday is the Ocean Arch and our Patreon painting next Saturday. Next weekend is our 2-video weekend.
Okay. Now,
so,
are we early on Saturday?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not doing that anymore because we keep forgetting.
Okay.
So we'll just do it regularly,
Normal
2 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, next Saturday. So we'll see you Tuesday night, hopefully. And thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate you. Bye.